Now, for the next segment of today's program, we're now turn it over to our boss man, our colleague, Bill Velasco. Bill?
Maraming salamat, Boyet at Ryan. Today, I'd like to talk about a dark period in Philippine boxing. Ang tinatawag ko rito ay yung mga bootleg boxers. Bakit po bootleg? Kasi ang ibig sabihin niyan ay illegal po. Dahil nangyari ito at lumago ang Philippine boxing nung panahon na bawal pa ito, pinagbabawal pa sa ating bansa. May 3 boksingero na nakilala sa The Olympic Club, no? Isa pong bar sa Manila na may boxing ring sa loob. At doon sa boxing club na yon, bawat Miyerkules at Sabado nagkakaroon sila ng mga laban at doon nakilala ang 3 sa pinakaunang mga international champion ng bansa. Ang una natin pag-uusapan ay si Dencio Cabanela. Now, Dencio Cabanela was a 3-division Orient boxing champion. Anong kakaiba doon sa ginawa ni Dencio Cabanela? Marami namang 3-weight boxing champion ngayon. Hawak po ni Dencio Cabanela ang 3 weight division ng sabay-sabay. Ibig sabihin, may mga punto na kalaban niya masyadong layo ang agwat sa timbang. There were times he had opponents who were 17 pounds heavier or more when they got into the ring. Cabanela was very ambitious. He wanted to get rich. He wanted to do all these amazing things. Unfortunately, during that time, boxing being an underground sport in the Philippines would hold matches practically every other week. Now, minsan po 3 beses sa isang buwan lumalaban si Cabanela. At isipin nyo na lang po, iba-iba ang timbang ng mga kalaban niya. Yung mga iba sobrang laki. So eventually when Cabanela was able to fight overseas, it was too much for him because he had never really gone that long. This was the time when fights were still 20 rounds, about to go down to 15 rounds. And Cabanela was just one day found dead in a pool of his own blood in his hotel room. Now, one of his stablemates at the Olympic Club was Francisco Guillermo, who is also known as Pancho Villa. Now, he adopted the name Pancho Villa dahil mandirigma po yung dating Pancho Villa sa Mexico. Siya po ay leader ng mga rebelde. Kaya pag sinabing Pancho Villa, mabagsik po yung pangalan na yun. Pancho Villa became the first ever Asian world champion. After conquering the Philippines, he boarded a steamer ship, pumunta po siya ng Amerika at doon naging American boxing champion muna siya bago siya naging world flyweight champion. Ngayon, trahedya din ang inabot ni Pancho Villa dahil nung panahon na yun, hindi po siya edukado, shoeshine boy lang po siya. Hindi siya marunong humawak ng pera. At mayroong pinalalaban sa kanya ang New York State Athletic Commission o New York Commission nung panahon na yun at ayaw niyang labanan. Kaya sinuspindi siya, umuwi siya ng Pilipinas. Mabilis niyang sinunog lahat ng pera na kinita niya at napilitan siyang lumaban para magkaroon ng salapi bilang world champion. Ang pinili niyang kalaban ay isang dating tagahanga niya na naging boksingero din at kapareho niya ng timbang. That was Clever Sencio. Clever Sencio was a fan of Pancho Villa. And remember, during those times, it was hard to be a fan because you could rarely hear about them on the radio because radios were not nationwide. Broadcasts were not nationwide at the time. Or you just read about them in the newspapers whenever there were fights. And there were rarely even photos. There were still at the time illustrations of the faces of the boxers. So he became a fan, left the province, went to Manila, at the same time that Pancho Villa left for the States, became a boxer while Pancho Villa was away in the same stable, the Olympic Club, and wanted to become a world champion. Ngayon, hindi niya matanggap na ginagamit lang siya ni Pancho Villa para kumita. Pero pumayag siya, labanan si Pancho Villa, and that was the very first all-Filipino world championship fight in the sport of boxing. Sa kasamaang palad, nung bumalik na sa Amerika si Pancho Villa, kakagimik ho niya, kakainom po niya, nagka-infection yung kanyang ngipin at nung araw ng kanyang huling laban, pinabunot niya yung 4 na ngipin. At lumaban pa rin siya at dahil may infection yung ngipin niya, yung isang kamay niya pinagsasangga niya. He was using one hand to protect his jaw and thus lost that fight. A few days later, he died from that tooth infection. Now, what happened to Clever Sencio? Clever Sencio did gain some measure of success as a boxer, but likewise was also found dead in his hotel room after a fight. Scientific studies show that since 1900, about 10 boxers die every year from assorted injuries, mostly to the brain. But in the 1920s, when these three boxers fought, over 200 boxers died. Yan po ang isang malagim na kwento sa kasaysayan ng boxing sa Pilipinas.